1909, the next year, Russia declares Finland as part of the Russian Imperium. One of the first things that the Russians do is that they gave us a position called the autonomous position, meaning that they don't do like any kind of like Russification for us. They don't force the Finns to speak Russian or be Orthodox, etc. They gave the autonomy for us, meaning that we would have our own legislative system, own laws. Later on, Finnish would be an official language, etc. So that bridge is very famous bridge. In Finnish, you call it as pitkä silta. The ones who don't know Finnish, pitkä means long or big, something massive, and then silta is a bridge. So the big bridge. It's not that big, right? It's quite average size of a bridge. Well, the name comes from the same period when Helsinki started to industrialize, so the late 1800s. On that time, there used to be allocated a bridge, a similar sized bridge, but a wooden bridge. And if you cross that bridge to here, you would be arriving to a small island. So here we'll be standing in a little island that was called the Bridge Island. Very creative name. And if you would be crossing the island that way, just 100 meters that way, you would be arriving to another bridge, very tiny bridge, that was called a small bridge. Yes, good thinking. Really the working class district, right? And then downtown where you have the academics, the students, etc. And until the 1970s or 80s, people who lived here, they would not really cross to the south and other way around, only when absolutely necessary, right? Today we don't really divide the city like that anymore, like the working class and then the better people. We don't do that, but you can still see the symbolism of the bridge in many cases. One example is, for example, if we have elections here in Finland, parliamentary elections, for example, and after the elections you see how different neighborhoods, how do they vote. Here in the northern parts of the bridge, there are two parties that are very popular. The Green Party and then the Left Party, right? Those are very popular here. Then you cross the bridge, more south you go, the Green Party still remains more or less popular. Left Party disappears, and then comes more like conservative, even right-leaning parties. So that's how you see it. Also a more human way to see it if you compare the price of a beer in a pub. So I don't know if some of you went for a casual beer in a pub somewhere, but maybe you have realized the prices tend not to be very cash, right? So this was definitely not the first place of the world where you would see like the trends of the world. So the Industrial Revolution arrived to Finland almost 100 years after it has started in the UK. So as Helsinki and Finland started to industrialize like late 1800s, early 1900s, downtown it was already full of banks and universities and important buildings, etc. So it didn't make sense to start to build the infrastructure for factories, etc. right there. So that's when the city planners start to take a look, okay, what do we have here? So then they see the northern parts of Helsinki, the neighborhood called Kallio. So only in the early 1900s this part is annexed to the city, right? On the next stop we will talk a little bit more about the working class movement and more about the industrialization.
Hi Anna.
Hi. So you're in this country. It was so nice. It was so funny. Wow, so during the night you cannot see yellow light.
I guess if I brought me, because like I mean I live in Brazil for 6 years. They're all very different. The nice thing about Berlin is
Wird auch nicht wiederkommen, glaube ich. Heute Nachmittag war sogar ganz angenehm. Ich saß 10 Minuten an der Sonne und es ist geil, ja.
Great, okay, good stuff. Hey, look. So as we learned a little bit, Helsinki became the capital in the early 1800s. They built the city in downtown, but as Finland started to industrialize, they decided to take a look at the neighborhood of Kallio. So when Helsinki started to have its first factories, and you can name whatever factories, soap factories and meatball factories, clothing, etc. They started building them here in the neighborhood of Kallio. And of course, where are the jobs? That's where the people tend to go and make their living as well, right? As was the trend around the world and in Europe as well, more the workers started to get focused on small areas. That meant that they also got politically active, right? So the first political party of Finland was indeed founded here in Kallio, right here actually in this spot, in this building here. This is an old workers' union house. The first political party that they founded was called the Workers' Political Party, 1899, and it functioned with the name for 4 years until 1903, when they changed the name to SDP, Social Democratic Party, which is one of the biggest political parties of Finland well today, and that's where, for example, our Prime Minister Sanna Marin. Kallio, but initially it's called Vallila.
Okay.
But Vallila is right next to Kallio, so it's there you have this kind of industrial buildings over there. I believe that's where I never been to
weil die sonst irgendwie so 6 das
But you have to kind of warm up the city, especially when you're new. It's very
you ever come back, you drop me a message.
So many things like Shanghai, it's where do you start? So
exactly.
in Amsterdam,
If you come in summer, there's a bunch of those underground parties that people just happier with the DJs in the street and until 7 a.m. they're closed. So that's quite big. Okay, no problems. Okay, sweet. So now we are one of the most iconic places of, if not Kallio, the whole Helsinki. This is the Hakaniemi Market Square. Every single little town or big town or city in Finland has at least one market square. Some of them have 10 market squares, just like Helsinki. The famous one is next to the Senate Square, the slightly more touristic one, but this is the authentic one. Of course, these days, the market squares, they don't have the same importance anymore, so people don't go to buy their daily groceries in the market squares because we have supermarkets, right? But what we come here to the market squares to do is for a morning coffee, right? So do you know that Finland is the country that drinks the most coffee per capita in the whole world? So we try to take our coffee quite seriously, and sometimes I must admit that quantity goes over quality. okay? In this, I must admit this, okay? I'm not here to lie to you people, and they're just drinking coffee like there is no. Like. Of course, years since the year 2000 until 2012. So she was the first and by far the last female president of Finland, also from the Social Democratic Party, and she was one of the great examples of how close can even like high level politicians be to the people. Right? So when she was born and raised here in Kallio in a very humble working class family. She got involved with politics when she was young and got a degree of law. Here in the late 1990s, name sign of Tarja Halonen for the president. So that's her favorite coffee where she goes almost every day for an afternoon coffee. So if you don't happen to see the sign where is her name written and you sit there, it's no problem. You can sit there. No one will come and tell to you anything. But only if like a lady with a red hair comes, you don't need to stand up also. She's really humble and polite, but maybe she will ask like to join with you. So if that happens, you know you're talking with the Finland's ex-president. In this case, I will just show you a picture of her so all of you will know in case this happens. I have two pictures here. Other one is more like official picture of her. Another one I feel like is very describing picture of her. So there is a picture of her here below of Tarja Halonen dumpster diving in the streets of Kallio. So looking for trash. I can indicate you other places where you can find, because this one the hall doesn't open tomorrow, but there you have the market square, which is an open air market, so that is also on Sunday. So you can also as early as like from 7 until 3 or 4. So we have the Senate Square, there's the White Cathedral, which is the kind of like the postcard of Helsinki, right next to it. Like where you have, from there is the skyway, the Ferris wheel is right there, and then there is the ferries to go to the islands, etc. It's Market Square name is, if you ask from anyone, they will, they will know. Any other things? I'll explain you. We learned that already a little bit about the Finnish general history. First there was the Swedish part and then there was the Russian part. The Russian part in the end it lasted quite some long time, so almost 110 years. So Finland celebrates its independence 6th of December 1917. So to understand what happened, how did we break away from the Russian rule, we will need to go and take a look on a little bit of the events of the 1917. So a question for you. What was going on in Russia 1917?
Red Revolution.
Yes, revolution, the Russian Revolution was going on. Of course the Russian Revolution didn't start that year, it had already started years earlier, but the main events of the revolution happened that year. So resuming, the Russian Revolution meant the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, were trying to capture the power and fall the Romanov Imperium of Russia and raise the communist state of Soviet Union. They tried already in the middle of the year 1917, so May, but Bolsheviks, they were not yet quite a popular party in Russia, so they couldn't finish with the revolution. So Lenin came here by train approximately in July 1917. He was hiding in many different addresses, many different buildings here in Helsinki, but most of those buildings we don't know exactly where they existed, or if we do know, they don't necessarily exist anymore. There's one building that we do know for sure where Lenin was staying, and that still exists, and that building is right there in front of you, that yellow building here in the corner. So we know that Lenin was living here in this building, in one of the small apartments of this building, approximately for 3 weeks in between August, September 19 and 17. Characteristic looking person, bald guy, that mustache, right? Everyone knows? So if you go walk around like this, you would be captured like this. So then Kustaa Rovio, he had a great idea. We should camouflage you. So the easy thing would be obviously to cut mustache, right? But I'm not sure if that is enough. So then Rovio, he had a brilliant idea. He knew a person who was who had a wig shop here in Kallio. So he went to that wig shop and ordered a wig tailored for Lenin. And I will show you what was the result. So this is how Lenin escaped, traveled away from Helsinki. Quite different, no? You can decide which one is better, I don't care. This is how Lenin traveled away, catched a train from the Central Railway Station all the way to St. Petersburg, and 7th of November 1917 the revolution was finished. The Romanov Imperium has finally fallen and Soviet Union was rising. Okay.
But they do have kitchen items. Looks like they actually might have it.
Like Finnish home food, nothing like this. That's where you eat the reindeer stew or salmon stew or the fish of the day. It's like we have learned here in Finland that you need to have all the So most of these, for example, they are buildings from the early 1900s, most of them made for residents, right? So this is a little bit different from in here. They used to have quite many like stores. There was a cinema here, restaurants historically. Most of those like the infra from the like early 1900s, the factories and stuff don't really exist. And some of them do, or in the northern part of Kallio, where they have remade those. So today you will have kind of like Berlin style, like industrial areas where you have pubs and bars. But here most of it.
You're from house surfing to make what kind of diving? Kind of free diving or
Probably like the I mean probably not closed for all day, but the small stores of like the old part of Porvo will be open for like really short until maybe 2 p.m. only or something. I can check for you later on and then send you a message on couch surfing. I will see for you because I don't want to say to you anything that's different. Okay. But probably like it's not as open as during Saturday, but something because it's a touristic town.
yeah.
Okay guys, come closer again. Put myself here a little bit higher. Come. Don't be afraid. I know in Finland we love personal space, but don't be afraid. Yes, great. Alright, so we are halfway through the hike. The hike finishes there on the next to the church, but let's have a little stop here. Right, so here we are in the very specific part of Kallio. This is one of the first areas of Kallio that started to be habitated. So in the late 1800s, when people started to come here for work, this is also where they started to build their houses. I have a confession to make though. these houses are not from the late 1800s. Maybe in case you were wondering. So these are obviously much newer.
Do they know you already?
Are they inviting us? Are they really sure? We are quite many, Yes, after parties, you know where.
So much to personal space.
Yeah, they are thinking the same. Yes. Bring the big party people here. Like the highest point of Finland is like 1,000 meters, so it's still quite high, but it's not like a mountain. Like we go to the trail.
Germany, so we have one, but I never was skiing it.
I saw quite many times here in Kallio neighborhood, like, do you know the food delivery guys like Walt and Foodora? They were going with skis. They're so much faster than go with a bike or whatever in winter time. Go with the skis and especially going down it's super fast. Quite hazard, but possible. Okay, so guys, this is the landmark of Kallio, the Kallio church, the landmark that you can see in many different spots of Helsinki, so kind of like just walk towards this tower and you will arrive to the heart of Kallio. It's very similar as the Workers' Union House, so the granite again here on the outer parts of the church is again excavated right here from the spot. This is a Lutheran church, just like most churches in Finland, like the Helsinki Cathedral as well. So majority of Finns are, if they belong to any church, they belong to the Lutheran church, right? But here, every year they do another very different kind of an event. Now this year they were supposed to do it next month, but canceled. Don't know when is the last time you see it, in 6 months. All the vitamin D you can get. Yeah, here the thing is that also like if you're looking for cheap pubs, you need to just walk around because it might be like, for example, this one is a very classic one. It's a little bit expensive one, this one. Yeah. So here a beer is 8 euros and then you walk to the next one and it's 3. So it's like, it's a big differences. Let's go here.
Let's pick a sunny spot.
Yeah. That's what I'm feeling that the people want. June and July there was not a single day of rain. Like around the medium was for like 26, 27.
Einer war immer thematisch, damit die Gäste halt auch so ein bisschen Qualität hatten und einer war immer so bisschen.
Now we are kind of in the, I guess I could say like the Central Park area of Kallio. It doesn't, if you have ever been to Central Park of New York, it's not exactly the same, but anyway, so here we have this park behind the library, that is the Kallio Library building over there, and the park that we just crossed there in the middle is another one. This is a very classic place in Helsinki where you, or in Kallio, where you meet up with friends. You have a date with your friends to have beers in Kallio. You meet in the park, and then from here you go this way, that way, this way, that way. So a bunch of bars here and super easy place to come to. Walking around in the city with your phone. Can you see this? Na 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 na. And I've been doing this for years, so some of the things are quite obvious. Like, do you have any questions? That comes like very naturally. So then you talk about, do you have any questions? No one says anything. Like, okay, let's go. You need to have like a mic where you speak.
Yeah, true.
Otherwise the camera could be in your face. So maybe. So are you guys you're in Seinäjoki or in Kajaani? That's a small place.
Yes.
It is, but it has advantage because the clubs are open till.
Small town. Super different from here.
Authentic experience.
Definitely. Let's go down here. And how long is like 6 months, a semester, or?
Yeah, a little bit less.
Yeah, like a
Almost
semester.
5, yeah. Oh no.
Like the friend who was in the beginning who is doing the Spanish tour, she's Spanish, so she has been now here 3 years and is starting sort of to be brave enough to open her mouth in Finnish, but she does Finnish courses 5 days a week every day since 3 years. So it's a little bit tricky. Okay. It is a Finnish invention, okay? If you ever meet, let's say, a Swedish person that says to you otherwise, don't believe it. It's a true fact. I can prove it to you many points.
Sure.
Sauna, it's a word that comes originally from the Finnish language. It's internationally the most used word that comes from our language. In fact, it's also the only one, right? So for us, it's very important if all of you foreigners would know how to pronounce it the correct Finnish way. So especially like English speakers tend to pronounce it as sauna, right? Not correct. We in Finland, we pronounce all of the letters very well. So the sauna, we don't pronounce sauna, we say sauna. Great, sounds good. If you can keep that, we will be very happy. Very good. So like public sauna. There are many public saunas in Helsinki. Sauna. And there is absolutely nothing sexual about saunas, alright? So there are just 2 rules that are very important to respect. The first rule is that if it's too hot for you, don't complain, just go out, okay? It's no problem, it's not shameful even if you left just 1 minute or 2 minutes, but people get really annoyed if you're there like complaining it's too hot. They're like, there's the door, go out and then you try again. Okay, no problem. And then when you go to the sauna, there's this one person that is throwing the water to the stones. The more water you throw, more heat, right? How do you decide who is that person? Well, you don't really. It's just like if no one is doing that at the moment, you can be brave and do it. But the things are that if you throw the water, it's polite to ask in general.